Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City of Casa Grande study session on August 1st. Welcome to August. I think it was just January yesterday.
It seemed like it.
And tonight we have a presentation on our wastewater reclamation expansion project. So, Mr. Raines, you want to start us off?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. I will give just a brief overview and then ask Mr. Eitel to introduce our guest, who I understand may be in the parking lot dealing with another issue at this moment. But, the mayor and council is well aware that staff has been indicating that we are in the process of looking for expansion opportunities with our wastewater services. Primarily, really two primary issues that we actually have been focused on for the past 12 months. One being the discharge of our effluent that is processed and treated. And number two, the potential expansion of our water reclamation facility. And our team has been working along with Mr. Kevin Lewis and Mr. Eitel on a variety of solutions. And this evening, we're here to present what we believe is the number one solution that actually will resolve a number of the elements related to our wastewater treatment facility. I will say that when we're moving into the presentation, this is going to be focused on the treatment and processing and the discharge. It will not be focused on our sewer main lines around town. Obviously, growth is really unprecedented today, and we believe that this is a solution to assist with this. So I'll ask Dwayne to come up and lay the foundation for the presentation this evening.
Thank you, Larry. Mayors, city councilmen, persons, excuse me. I'm an old man, you know, it's hard to break 70-some years of saying those things. Mm-hmm. So about 6 months ago, Sunrise Engineering, who does our wastewater modeling, figured out that in 2 to 3 years, we were going to have some issues with wastewater capacity. So we started looking around about how we could handle that, and put together, I think, one of the best teams of consultants in Arizona. So we have Sunrise Engineering, Hilgart Wilson, and Wilson and Company. And they're all working together, and we're trying to rapidly, in the next 2 years, do a lot of improvements to the wastewater system. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Impeccable time.
Work the slides.
So feel the little bump of this. You can feel it, just a little like
I got it. Okay.
Did you get a chance to catch your breath?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm good. A little more traffic coming down here than I anticipated. Sorry about that.
It's I-10, needs to be expanded.
It does.
We're
yes.
working on it.
I'm sure Wilson and Company would be happy to do that.
Any help you can give us, we'd appreciate.
All right. So I'm Brian McBride, for those of you that don't know me. I'm Wilson and Company. I'm the head of water wastewater for the firm, and been focused a lot on City of Casa Grande lately. So I'm going to go briefly through this presentation. So we've been working on this for several months, as you probably know. And when we came on board to address this back in October, I think, and the initial problem was that, you know, you guys have a lot of development coming on board. It's a big train coming down the track, and you got a little behind on the infrastructure from the wastewater standpoint to do that. And so looking at that, in order to not hold up that development, the short time frame is 24 to 36 months to get that infrastructure in place. And you know, one of the largest problems was the existing WRF's limited to 6 million gallons a day of effluent disposal. It's a 12 million gallon a day plant. We can only dispose of 6 million gallons a day of the treated effluent. So when I first got involved, the city was looking at investigating a west side WRF. They had worked with another consultant, another firm that was headed that direction. But you know, when we took a look at it, there's no way you could have done that in that amount of time. So we suggested that the city take a look at other options and see okay, let's do what we need to do to get to where you need to be, and look at the options to do that. And we thought we could come up with something. So, you know, that right there, that was the earliest commissioning date for that was 2025, and the program costs were going to be over $100 million to go that direction. So we thought we could come up with some different ideas for that. So we did the wastewater capacity study starting, I think, in November, first week of November. So the new plan that was developed was to design, permanent, construct a new lift station on the west side, because you have a lot of capacity potential at the existing WRF. You have plenty of acreage there, and it's a good, solid plant, and so it would be quicker to expand that, and I'll go into that in a little bit. So if you expand the capabilities of the existing WRF, then you can put a force main from that, and that's an old figure there, but that was when we were first working on it. Force main over to the wastewater plant, and take care of the west side that way, and then the east side is a different issue that we'll talk about in a second. But then a big part of it was to develop the effluent disposal alternatives, right? So you had to solve that issue about the 670 limitation. So we took a look at that, and then we had that goal of getting that infrastructure in and commissioned by 2024. So once we put that all together about how this would work, that program took it down to about $34 million. We completed that study in January 2022, and then moved into the conceptual design study. So the city said, yeah, we like that plan. Let's take a look at that and do the conceptual design to say, okay, specifically, how will we do that? And let's get closer with the cost estimates, right? So this is conceptual. That was, just basically the plan. Let's actually flesh out the concept to see exactly how that would get done. And so that's what we started right after that. So that was a conceptual design study, which is finished now. I think the final DCR, the sealed version, will be out next week, I believe. We've pretty much done all of that. So that included background investigations, really go through all the existing documents, look at the utilities that are out there, look at the pipeline routes where we need to have them, look at the wastewater plant, make sure that we could do what we thought we could do, talk with the operations staff. And then have a master planning update, so get all the latest information, working with the planning department, and say, okay, make sure we're accounting for everything that we need to account for. So that was part of the project. And then there was a funding acquisition assistance. We happen to specialize in federal and state grant funding, so we helped that and got several of those things in progress for the funding acquisition. And then we did the effluent disposal and the reuse analysis, as I talked about, and then finished the design report with the cost estimating and scheduling that I'll show you here coming up. Effluent disposal, that's one of the first things we approached. I mean, these were all kind of done in parallel, but that was a very important one. So we had hydrogeologists on board, actually two different hydrogeologists. Originally we thought that the injection wells might be good because they're pretty efficient if you can get good yields out of them, good capacity, but it turned out that none of the 5 sites that we looked at were viable, just weren't cost effective. So we took a revised approach with the hydrogeologist, and that is, so the primary one is we developed a reclaimed water distribution system. The idea is that you have all these new industrial, commercial users coming in, and if we provide them with high quality A++ effluent, that's a very valuable commodity that they can use and will use. So that would be an 18-inch water line from the plant to the far end of the reclaimed water distribution system. It's about 5.5 miles long as a plan. And then along with that, we have recharge basins at the Cactus mine site. So we talked to them about using their site. That's a proposed thing. That's not worked out with them yet, but that would provide significant recharge of the aquifer, along with the ones that we're working on and the current WRF at the plant site that are 2.1 MGD. Once they get done, that's in progress right now. And then, of course, an 8-inch reclaimed water line to the Cactus mine, because they also want to use 1 MGD of water effluent at that site. And then that could be installed pretty quickly using horizontal directional drilling, because one of the tricky parts, of course, is getting across the rail and the highway, and that can take a long time. But if we do horizontal directional drilling, we investigated that, and it's completely feasible there, and that makes it a lot quicker and easier to get done. And then very key to this was we went and talked to ADEQ, because we don't want you to get in a situation where you're limited again if one of these things don't work out. So we talked to them about, so if we run that line down, it just happens to go down about 2 miles that way and 3 miles south, and get you down in the area near where the the Francisco Grande Resort is. And it just so happens that the river, which at that point is an effluent-dominated stream, is there. So we thought it might be good, okay, let's see if we can do an Aziptes discharge point there. And we talked to ADQ, and they said it's perfectly viable, it qualifies. And so that we can put, we're planning on putting, if you need to, any additional effluent, assuming that can be permitted, which they've assured us it can be discharged at that point at the end of the reclaimed water distribution system line. So that's a very good alternative to have. So going into the conceptual design study specifics here, so you can see on this particular figure, the wastewater facility is to your right, the bottom right there, and then there's the blue line, that is the effluent, the reclaimed water distribution lines. You can see the one going up to the mine site and the proposed recharge basins up there. And then those are both along Corsten Road, and then that one goes up along the railroad to the mine site. And then the red box right there that's the lift station, and the yellow line coming back then is the force main coming back from that lift station. So this is really kind of where that fleshed out. There's more to it than that, but that's the first part of it. And so so that site there on the lift station that I'll talk about in more detail in just a second is being obtained, I believe, for no cost from that developer that has that property there, and it's just out of the floodplain, so it'll be quick to get permitted and built on that. And I think that's a initial phase of 5,500 GPM, and then up to 7,500 GPM expandable. So here I show so down Bianco Road, that reclaimed water distribution line continues on down, and that's the proposed new secondary effluent discharge point right by the, just west of the Francisco Grande Resort right there. So. Then getting into the actual design concept report, we talk about the west area lift station, that one I just showed, in that 3-acre site located on developer land, acquisition pending. It'll basically be, I said 5,600 GPM firm capacity with expandable to 9,700 GPM. Shows you how good my memory is. And then it'll have dual 18-inch force mains with the second main valved off until needed. So really, you need to put 2 of them in there because the total capacity you're going to need 2 mains. And the reason you do 2 is that because if it's too big, you do 1, but it doesn't cost that much more because it's the same trench you can put them in. And if you do 1, the velocities will be so slow that it'll be very smelly by the time it gets to the plant. So you want to keep those velocities up, keep deposits from going in there. So having those 2 mains together, 1 for the future as your flow goes up. You don't want to start too low. That's a common mistake engineers make, is that they oversize it in the beginning, and then the velocities are so slow, it moves so slowly, especially in Arizona, it cooks on the way and becomes septic. So that would be dual 18s, but the other one would be valved off until you need it. And then we also included the initial influent sewers. So that includes a 15-inch line along where the initial development's going in on the industrial park there along Corsten, and then a 36 to 40-inch north-south interceptor along Bianco Road, and that's where the developers out there can hook into. So that's also in the works. Here's a blow-up of that lift station site. So you can see here in the upper corner, you see where that's positioned by the floodplain there, and then so the dual force mains will come out to the west, and then down and back along the Cortzen Road alignment. And then you can see that's the sewer. See the 15-inch lateral I was talking about? Yes. Do you have a question?
Yes. What exactly does a lift station do?
I'm sorry, I should have said that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So a lift station is basically, it's a pump station. They call it a lift station because it's lifting the hydraulic head of wastewater. So where you can't flow by gravity, you have to pump it up. And so that lift station basically serves to take the west side, which is, it's downhill, so the sewage won't flow uphill. It'll take the sewage from the west side and pump it over to the plant. So I apologize for not being more clear on that. But that lift station they're pretty simple and pretty quick to build. Obviously way cheaper than a new wastewater plant. It does take some operation and maintenance stuff, but not nearly as much as a new wastewater plant. And so that lift station it'll take all the flows from the west side and bring them to the existing plant.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, the 140-foot right-of-way is also not yet acquired. We don't need that much, but that's what the city'd like to do for future stuff. I mean, those lines look pretty thick, but it's really, they don't take a lot of space on those lines. It's not really to scale on the lines. We can also see that blue line running through, and that's where the Reclaimed Water Distribution Center runs right through there and down to the south as well. Any other questions at this point? Okay, then the water reclamation facility. So this was very fortunate because, you know, based on the stuff from the west side and the new development on the east side, that you're going to need more capacity than 12 MGD in your plant. So, but you don't have time to make new basins. Like new basins, you know, you have to excavate, do the cast in place concrete and all that. That's probably a 3-year cycle that you need to get through if all goes well. However, because of the type of plant you have, and you happen to have there's a pre-treatment basin that was used for your commercial, you know, I guess, high nutrient users. I guess the Abbott was used to pre-treat that. But now that you have that on, they're pre-treating it, that's not necessary anymore, but we're able to convert that into an equalization basin, which means that downstream of that, you can increase the capacity of the plant without having to increase the downstream processes on that, with the exception of the biological process, because the biological process is instantaneous. It goes over, you know, a week's mean cell residence time, so that the biological process, if it's 12 MGD, it's 12 MGD. However, we have a lot of experience in retrofitting those type of processes, because there's different ways to do that that are very successful. And so to get to the compressed schedule, to do everything without the basins, basically the two keys of that are to use the equalization basin as well as increase the process by a fixed film addition. So that's called integrated fixed film activated sludge process. And what it really is those are they're cages of material that are put into the basins that have biogrowth on them. And so you have biogrowth in the mixed liquor and in the biological process, but you have it suspended, then you also have it fixed on a film on these units that are independently aerated, and that can add capacity. So it, not to get too technical, but increases your effective mixed liquor. So what the limiting factor on a biological process like that, an aeration basin, is how much biological mass you can put per cubic foot of space of volume in your tank. And so what that process does is it enables you to have more biological per cubic foot of tank. And we have enough space in there. And we were talking to NTEX, which is a company that has retrofitted this exact same type of plant successfully. And we reviewed their model, and we can get to 18 MGD fairly easily on that. And so also with the upgrade and the expansion concept, then you have to increase the pumping capacity. Luckily, that the design of it will accommodate changing out the pumps and not having to redo the building for the infant pump station to take it to 18 MGD with a 36 MGD peak. We're going to need to mitigate odors because we're going to use an EQ basin, so we're going to bring in a superoxygenation system, which basically supersaturates the influent with oxygen, and then it takes a while to dissipate, and that gets rid of your sulfides. It basically oxidizes all your sulfides and prevents H2S production. So that'll carry all the way through, and then the equalization basin will be aerated. So the odors will be well mitigated on that. And then, as I said, the equalization flow will keep, instead of the 36 MGD peak, that'll keep it at 24 MGD peak for the downstream processes, which they're already designed at. So that's fortunate that we're able to do that. And then, as I said, the IFAS modules. And then there's, because we're going to be doing recharge and reclaim water, there's some reliability upgrades that we are recommending, including tertiary filtration redundancy. You just need to make sure that if you have a plant upset, that you don't have to put that water out. So there's some reliability and consistency upgrades that we're recommending. And then, of course, to modify the influent pump station to pump all that flow into the reclaimed water distribution system. Okay. Here's a few just process flow diagrams if you're interested. You can see here from the influent pumps right in the middle top there to the superoxidation system, and then on through the existing grit separators that they are fine for 36 MGD, and then to the equalization basin, and then through all the process to the EQ pumps, and then the next slide shows from there, goes through the oxidation ditches, and you can see that's all the modules that are going to go in. Those are the IFAS modules that'll be included, and then the upgrade of the effluent pump station and the new disc filters on the side. So, okay.
Does it clean
Sure.
it to the, is it potable when it's through
The
going through
effluent?
that, or is it usable? Is that?
No, the effluent won't be considered potable water. It'll be the highest quality effluent, though, that
Okay.
is produced, with the exception of, like, if we had RO, that would be technically higher, but it's very high-quality effluent. So the regulations allow unlimited use for all reuse classifications. So it's very high quality, but not potable.
Yeah.
I guess indirectly so, because you recharge that and it takes it out of the aquifer somewhere else, right? So and that'll come into play. That's why you want to do the recharge is very important for your whole water balance as a community. You have to put some of that back, as much as you can, back into the aquifer. And that's on the water side, then that's not my area right now. Okay, so summary and conclusion. So the west area sewer collection capacity, that'll be 2.7 MGD by 2024. So we'll be able to take up to 2.7 MGD from the new developments out there by 2024. Reclaimed water delivery available to that entire west area by the first quarter 2024. The effluent disposal capacity up to 18 MGD, which is what we need by Q2 2024. And then the wastewater treatment capacity also 18 MGD by Q2 2024. So all, May, June 2024, all this stuff should be in place and running. That's the plan. So then the important part that you guys, I think, probably care a lot about is the program schedule and costs. So this is the cost that were put together, and this is a summarized. There's a lot of numbers and spreadsheets behind this one, but this is the consolidated spreadsheet. So you can see on the west area sewer improvements, that includes that lift station, the force mains, the installation under the railroad and highway, lateral sewers, all that stuff, and then the reclaimed water system improvements and all that. And then the water reclamation facility for the plant, and that all comes to right around, you see there's a 15% contingency on that as well. And then that has a total cost of around $40 million as opposed to, I think, $112 million previously. Okay, now we put this together so by calendar year and fiscal year, so you can see where the cash flow would be. So this is how those projects all pan out from a schedule standpoint and what the cash flow for each of those projects will be, right? So that goes from this current fiscal year, a lot of that's engineering as we're getting these going, and then more of the construction in 2024, and then the ones that need to be done by I guess Q3 2024. Most of that is already done. So some of the upgrades of the wastewater plant don't need to be done in order for this to happen, but that extends out a little bit. But you can see here where and when the money is going to be needed. Okay.
Brian, I have a quick question. So the estimates in terms of the volume needs, we're going from 12 MGD to, 18? Does that then take into effect development that may come, industrial development along with the east side development, Larry, in terms of the large developments by Francisco Grande?
Yes, it does. So we had Sunrise Engineering cover the modeling stuff, and they worked very closely with the city on all the perspective, and that's where that 18 MGD number comes from, because that's all the ones that will be in, that or may be in, that will need the capacity.
Some of it could be Copper Mountain, some of it could be...
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Copper Mountain would actually end up, because of the topography in that area, a portion of Copper Mountain would be serviced by our existing plant, and the western portion of Copper Mountain would likely be serviced by a new plant even more westernly than our existing plant. But
So
this,
to the west of the lift station?
correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead.
I have a layman question. So you had mentioned about it being financially better for that lift station, and with proper care and stuff, what's the actual lifespan of a lift station?
Oh, the lift, that should be 25 years plus. I mean, at least 20 years before you need a rehab. That's how it'll be designed.
Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah. Thank you for your expertise. You went through that
I appreciate it.
pretty quickly.
You know, we are a bunch of wastewater nerds up here, but
All right.
But that did include putting in the two 18-inch force mains, right? One that will be used first and the other one be capped off.
It includes both of them.
Both of them,
Yeah,
okay.
it would be much more expensive if you did them separately.
Yep, and then a little bit about the wastewater distribution system, or the reclaimed water distribution system that goes
Down
out
to Bianco.
near Francisco Grande area.
Right.
To recharge there.
No, it actually will recharge. The one recharge site that we are proposing is up the mine site, so that'll go north of the Cactus Mine,
So what's that one where does that go?
which,
that one that went down Bianco.
Yeah, the one that went down
So
Bianco.
the one that goes down Bianco will be available for all the developments that are along that, so there's,
Oh, so that'll be for end users, okay.
yeah, so,
But the recharge would go up by the mine that you're talking about.
yeah, the recharge, so there's
Okay, so
there's
that
two
won't be
things.
recharged, that'll be used for industrial users to use.
Right.
Okay.
But the mine also wants to use a full 1 MGD a day of that reclaimed water. So they're going to be putting a pond up there of their own and using it 1 MGD a day is what they've said they need. So the recharge will be 2.5 million is the estimated capacity, and then another million for the usage of the mine.
And then we'd be getting credits for the recharge?
Yep. 100% credits on those recharge
Because
rather
of
than
the
the
quality of the
construction.
water.
That's correct. That's right.
Just curiosity, at the mine, the water that's almost always at the bottom, is that water putrid? Is it settled, or is it usable, or?
So I'm not sure, you mean the reclaimed water line, water?
No, he's talking down in the pit. There's a
Oh,
pit.
down in the pit, yeah, I really, I don't know what, the regulations are, they have to treat that if it goes anywhere, and
Okay.
My company also does that, but it's not my area, that's industrial mine treatment. But I don't think that has an impact on this project.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Kind of to piggyback on the mayor's question, we talked about going from capacity of 12 MGD to 18, and you brought up several times that we aren't at that point where we can build a new basin, so this is the way to go as far as the upgrade and expansion concept. So, it seems, I feel pretty confident, because when you highlighted what that entails, the increased pump capacity, mitigate odors, upgrade biological treatment, but I guess my question is, going from 12 to 18, can we go up anymore, or is that the maximum? And and that's why I wanted to see what this includes and how far out into the future this will be, and if this is the most we can go before we have to build a new basin, and when will we have to build a new basin?
It's, as you go above 18, there's other things that are going to have to be done, right? So because there's the equalization basin, we've said it's fine for 24. We don't know if it can equalize from 36 of your peak hour flow down to 24. Can it go 40 down to 24? We haven't looked at that. It probably can, but as you increase it more, you're going to have to look at those processes and probably increase those, as well as I definitely know that the influent pump station, that is about, you're going to need to do a new influent pump station and new influent screens if you're going to go above that.
At some point in time, we've got to build some additional wastewater treatment plants.
Right, and if
Well, it's my opinion it's just my opinion, that there's plenty of room on that wastewater plant. I'm not sure why you would do a satellite plant anywhere.
Okay.
I think it's much
I like
more
this
efficient
answer.
to have a centralized one.
Good one,
So
too.
I know there's some engineers who would disagree with me on that.
Okay. Matt?
But to
And
piggyback on
Mr.
that-
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, if I can just expand on that, just very briefly, and Brian, Mr. McBride actually has outlined a number of reasons why we've elected to move down this path. We are actually studying other alternatives at this point.
Right.
On the east side, potential plants on the west side, but because of our ability to expand right on this site. It becomes the most practical and efficient manner to do so. And so that really is what has driven
And
us
more
up to
immediate
this
too,
point.
right,
And-
Larry?
And more immediate. That doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to look at other alternatives and study what Mr. McBride is talking about this evening in more detail. But essentially, staff is working on, really conceptually having discussions on potential plans on the east side, potential plants on the west side as well. But ultimately, today, we're focused, and to give everybody a context, we are processing roughly 5 to 6 MGD a day at our plant. And as has been pointed out, we have the capacity of 12. We take that to 18. We'll have a little bit more of a runway, I'll use that term, for us to really study and evaluate our next phases. But Brian, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, that's absolutely true. And, you know, when it comes to whether there's an east plant, a future east plant, there's a lot of factors that I haven't looked at that'll, you know, be in that. Because remember, it's on the other side of the highway, so that's a complication for a lift station. Sure. You know, you don't want to be involved in complex siphons and things of that nature. Right. So we really haven't looked at it. But you do have a lot of space at the existing plant. And so it's obviously easy to do stuff there.
Okay. Jeff, you had a question, I know. No? Okay.
I think you might have answered it, but I do appreciate your opinion about expanding our current plant, because that sounds, but if there were to be a plant on the east side, which you outlined some options in your email the other day, would take some current pressure off of this plant as well, right? So if we get up to the 18 million, that would still take some capacity out, so we'd actually be able to go longer with 18 million, if that happens?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Herman, in theory, you're absolutely correct. What we are evaluating is much today in the potential expansion to the east side. There is an opportunity with development and potentially other governments to perhaps partner on a plant on the east side. However, really one of the key elements that we're looking at is just the overall cost. What we don't want to do is build plants that ultimately aren't going to be used, essentially having to capitalize those, right? That essentially will impact a variety of our financing components. And so we want to study in more detail the potential of expanding at our existing plant, but know that there may be a day that we actually are partnering and or building in other locations.
Yeah, and Councilman Powell, yes.
How do environmental situations affect your processing there? I know this last weekend with the way it rained, it was amazing. And you get a lot of that tailwater that ends up going where? But is any of that useful, or is it just basically the way it is?
Yeah, that's a little outside my area of expertise. I'm not a stormwater expert.
Yeah.
We have those
Okay.
folks. But as far as it affects the wastewater, because I just recommended today in talking to Kim Owensby, because they had quite a surge in their plant. So I recommended that they do an I&I study to find out why they're getting so much rain infiltration at the plant, because they had quite a peak during that storm, and that's not normal with we don't have combined sewers here, and so there shouldn't be the peak that they had, and so there's probably something going on somewhere that there's an infiltration point somewhere that can be tracked down, yeah. And I recommend that they do that. So yeah, it does have a pretty big impact when that happens.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor.
A nice presentation.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I can just kind of talk through some of the next steps, and I'll certainly, if I start to go down the wrong path, I'll ask Mr. Eitel or Mr. Lewis to correct me here. But as you can see, we have a very aggressive window, and likely Marion County, and you can see that Mr. McBride has put together what I consider to be a very detailed cost estimate that we can use for future CIP. You may recall this year when we were having our capital improvement program, we did not have a lot of definition, so we ultimately allocated money to this project. And the great news is that in this upcoming fiscal year, we've got sufficient funds that have been allocated to actually execute what has been, at least in the first phase, what has been outlined this evening. But as far as next steps, we obviously need to get this project started with design. So there'll be some design contracts that'll be coming before the mayor and council, and then likely the hiring of contractors to actually begin to work with the engineers to value engineer, for lack of better words, and actually commence some of the construction. But our primary focus at day one will be the west side and the 18-inch reuse line that would actually run to our west.
Hey, Larry, just a thought, as we move through this and we move to execute the lines and because we're gonna have water going both directions.
Right.
And I know we were looking at our major thoroughfares in there too, so obviously we
That's
need
right.
to be doing all that at the same time?
That is correct,
Okay,
particularly on Courtson Road.
okay.
Yep.
Well, and Burris and, Blanca Road,
Right.
Ethington, all those. So, okay, thank you. That's it? All right. That's all we have tonight for the study session?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we have 20 minutes back. All right, study session is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Nice presentation. Thank you.
Glad you put that on.
I know.
When your dad first bought the place.
I sent Teresa a statement.
Kind of ate into the lumber that was out there, built warehouse.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's August 1st City Council meeting. First order of business tonight is a call to order, and we'll also then do the invocation next and the Pledge of Allegiance. So I would ask you all to please remain standing for the pledge after our invocation. Tonight we have Pastor Jonathan Berkey from the Trinity Lutheran Church to do our invocation. Pastor?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for this privilege. I invite you to bow your heads as we give thanks to the Lord this evening. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many gifts that you provide us each day. We thank you for the blessing of the rain that you send that watered our earth. Lord, we thank you for caring for us and loving us dearly, more than we can imagine. We thank you for each of for our mayor, for each of our council members, and for all who will make decisions this evening. We ask that you would be present in this meeting, that you bring guidance and direction, that as they make plans, that they would glorify you and honor you. Lord, where there is discussion, may it be civil and may it be honorable, even when there is disagreement. Lord, may you bring your wisdom and your guidance, that all of our words and our thoughts would bring glory to your name. Although there may be difference, Lord, we know that we have a common goal and a common good to care for our community, to see our community's growth, and to see the abundant ways you'll bless us. Lord, where there is differences, where there is confusion, may you bring clarity, may you bring insight. We pray your presence upon us, O Lord, that you'd bless this meeting, that you'd bless our city, and that you'd bless us as we carry out this business this evening. To God be all glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Mr. Powell.
You bet.
All right. Item B is our roll call. Let the roll call show that all members are present. Next is item C, minutes.
Okay. I'm sitting here. I move that consider the approval of the Casa Grande regular meeting minutes of July 18th, 2022, and consider the acceptance of the Casa Grande Youth Commission meeting minutes of May 14th, 2022.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. We have claims against the city. D1.
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims dated July 13th to 26th, 2022 as presented.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the claims are approved. Next is our meeting agenda approval. Larry, I think we have some changes here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, at the request of the applicant, under consent agenda, because it is a second read, item G8, the applicant is asking to remove the item from tonight's consideration, and we will work with the applicant to get it rescheduled at some point.
All right, and I know we have an executive session tonight, so I'm going to move the reports, which is item N, to just before item M. So we'll move that. Any other changes that anyone has? Okay, seeing none, then I'll move for approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the meeting approval with the amendments is approved. We have no special presentations tonight, so we'll move into consent agenda items. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to pull any of the consent agenda off? Anybody from council? Staff, anyone? Nope. Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain.
Mayor McFarland, I
Motion.
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is item H, under public comments, and I do have a request to speak card here from Chief Keen. Chief? I lost it. It's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Gotcha, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I come before you tonight to just provide a couple of introductions to you. We'll do business before pleasure. This is our new Fire Marshal, Fire Marshal Marshall.
I bet he's never heard that joke before.
We've been saying it to him all week, so. This is Kyle Marshall. He comes to us from New Mexico. He worked for the Silver City Fire Department in New Mexico. Somebody else from our city's from Silver City, so they actually know a lot of the same people. He went up through the fire department, and then at some point he branched off into fire prevention. He left the fire department and ended up working for the New Mexico State Fire Marshal's Office. And he's been heading up their Code Enforcement Bureau. And he's got a wealth of knowledge. He's got all the certifications and everything we needed, and we're very happy to have him on board. So I just wanted you guys to meet Fire Marshal Marshall.
Welcome.
Fire Marshal, thank you, and welcome to Casa Grande. All right. We're happy you're here.
I wanted to introduce you guys to this young man. Some of you probably already know him and have been reading about him over the last 50 days, 44 days for sure. This is Fire Engineer Brian Berry. Brian got promoted to engineer recently, so he's been learning his new job as an engineer, but he's a 12-year veteran of the Casa Grande Fire Department. He embarked on a pretty amazing trek. He
4,000.
participated in what's called the Trans Am bike race. He completed it a few weeks ago. What was the date you got?
The 16th of August,
July.
or July, sorry.
He's still a little loopy. He's now back with us.
A lot
but
of
this-
windshield time.
Yeah, this race started in Oregon, and he ended up in Virginia.
That's amazing.
So he basically pedaled 4,300 miles across the United States. And while you'd wonder why he would do such a thing, obviously it was a personal challenge that he wanted to do because he saw it a few years ago. His main reason for doing it was to support the Arizona Burn Foundation. He was raising money to send kids to Camp Courage, and I think some of you guys know all about Camp Courage. Ironically, I think the day that the race started, 40 kids started at Camp Courage that day, the day he started the race. But the money and stuff that he raised helped support and bring all these kids. And they're kids that have been horrifically burned and suffered a lot from burns. And they send them to this camp and get to hang out and have a lot of fun for several weeks. It's a pretty unique and cool thing that this organization does. We all kind of watched with great interest. He was posting stuff on Facebook every day. He had some great stories and some great pictures. And one day I was like, he's like laying on the floor of a post office, sleeping on the floor of a post office and stuff like that. So we just wanted to tell you congratulations and tell you thank you for making the city look good, bringing great credit upon yourself, the city, and our organization. We don't have much for you, but we'll give you a challenge.
I'm not going to give a speech, but I just want to thank everybody from the department and my wife, most of all. A 40-day trip across the country puts a lot of burden on her, and I'm already thinking about next time. And we were talking about it on the way down here tonight. So it's just an incredible experience. I had a blast, and I was miserable half of the time. So kind of went between those two emotions a lot. But I just want to thank you guys for all your support. If you donated to the Arizona Burn Foundation, I really appreciate it. And thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for coming.
All right, this is a call to the public, so if there's anyone else who would like to address the council, this is your opportunity. All right, well, seeing no one jump up, then I will close the call to the public and move on to the next item, which is item I-1. Consider approval of resolution number 5439. Mr. Gagliardi, are you up on this one, or?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So this item in front of you is a request for council consideration of a credit and waiver agreement between the City of Casa Grande and LGI Homes. So the origin of the request has to do with the Mission Ranch subdivision located just north of Rodeo Road along the east side of Peart. As you may recall, up until just last year or so, this was a zombie subdivision. The situation was, however, this was platted back in 2006 and improved with streets, curb, gutter, sidewalk infrastructure, and was accepted by the city. Normally, once improvements are accepted by the city, it's for the city to maintain. Well, it's hard to maintain when there's no development within that area for, 12 to 14 years. So over time, that area had deteriorated, and LGI Homes purchased the lots for resale and realized that the amount and extent of improvements were going to be costly. They entered into an agreement with the city that they would go ahead and bear the cost for the north portion of Mission Ranch. And the city at the time had discussed fronting the cost to restore the south portion. But as LGI hired a contractor to do the work in the north portion, they figured, it would make sense for that same contractor to go ahead and also construct the improvements needed along the south portion, the restoration of the asphalt, etc. As you can see, this picture here doesn't actually do it justice. You see a buckled sidewalk. But as they started to do development activity and construct homes, they noticed that the roadway started subsiding more because it just, having sat there without use, the road base had deteriorated and there started to be some significant cracks, etc. So it wasn't just a matter of buckled sidewalks. LGI had to come in and tear up a lot of the streets, put in new road base, etc. So what this request is they went ahead and provided an estimate of all the work that was done, and it came to an amount of $382,339.25 for the area that the city was going to take care of, in addition to the area that they agreed to take care of on the north half. And what this agreement entails is that in lieu of the city using or expending capital improvement funds to put towards Mission Ranch and finding a place for it in an upcoming budget, what the agreement says is that LGI would front that cost, which they did, and then we would reimburse them by means of reduction in their building permit fees for other developments that they have in the city. Now, the yellow star on this map indicates Mission Ranch, but they're also located within Country Walk. There's just a handful of lots there where LGI is building. They're also building within Ghost Hollow, which is just off the map on the west side of Pinell, and they're going to be constructing homes within Elaine Farms where the white star is located. So the idea is that we would just give them a credit to the building permit fees owed. Now, how much a building permit fee is depends on the size of the home and the estimated construction costs for the home, but usually it averages between $1,200 to $3,200 per building permit. So we assume that after 320 homes, between 120 and 320, that amount would be exhausted. And one of the advantages to accepting this agreement is that by giving them a credit towards their future building permits, saves the city from having to budget this in an upcoming capital improvement line item. So the city planning department does recommend that council approve this credit agreement, and that concludes my presentation.
Questions? Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
So is it common, for us to, are there other subdivisions that are in a similar situation where we're going to have to do this again? Or, is this common practice for us?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Fitzgibbons, I wouldn't say that it's common. I think it was the perfect scenario where the deterioration of that specific subdivision had reached such an extent that a decision had to be made as to whether the city fronted monies to restore the infrastructure or to, arrange some sort of alternative. That said, there are a number of other, what we call zombie subdivisions throughout town that has had a share of issues. But normally the dialogue with the developer is look, we'll go ahead and put it on a future budget, but we can't really guarantee when that will come. And oftentimes their building schedules are faster than that. So we've actually probably have been lucky because usually it's aligned to where that can all be arranged, but they were selling lots so quickly. As you can see in that first aerial, over just the course of a year, 153 lots were built on, that it kind of necessitated this agreement.
Sounds good, thank you.
Matt?
I think it's important to point out that we've also changed our policy as to this in the future, that the developer's not only doing partial of the subdivision, so we hopefully won't run into this going forward. And the question I have is, this price, is that a competitive, did we make sure that was a reasonable price to fix those roads? I'm sure there's some sort of standard as to how much it costs to build a road per.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Herman, so LGI did reach out and we got an estimate from a contractor, but what occurred with that is then our engineering staff evaluated that to what costs we knew to be comparable, and they were found to be fair. We didn't ask them to provide multiple bids, or at least that wasn't my understanding, but normally when a developer provides a cost estimate, we don't necessarily ask for multiple bids, but we do compare it to industry standards.
So we did make sure that it's in line.
Correct.
Bob?
I think it's also important to note that this is not the first time that the council has looked at this, and I think the consensus with the council has been that in this going from the quote-unquote zombie development that it was, and if people will recall, there were maybe three homes there that had to be demolished. It was really in bad shape. And I think the consensus is that this is not only the right thing to do, but it's in the best interest of our community that but the developer was able to take this subdivision and turn it into a very nice neighborhood.
Yep.
Thank you.
At one point in time, it was a big black eye.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. All right, any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Gagliardi. All right, seeing no more comments or questions, then I will call for a resolution number, please, Gloria.
Resolution number 5439, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, authorizing a credit and waiver agreement between the city of Casa Grande and LGI GI Homes Arizona LLC and authorizing the execution of an agreement.
Mayor McFarland, I would move for approval of resolution number 5439 as presented.
Second?
All right, a motion and a second. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item on our agenda is J1. This is considering the acceptance of the resignation for Planning and Zoning Commissioner, Mr. Dennis Dugan. Well, first of all, I want to publicly thank Dennis for his really multiple years of service. He has been on this P&Z since actually I became mayor, so almost 6 years. And due to some health considerations, had to resign. So I would certainly recommend accepting his resignation.
He did a really good job.
He did. He was very active in the
Planning
position.
department, yeah.
He went out and looked at all the projects, gave his opinion, sometimes very opinioned, but anyway,
job.
he was much appreciated, so.
Mayor McFarland, I move regretfully to accept the resignation of Dennis Dugan from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Is it okay if we do this as two separate matters? Okay. So, first of all, we have a motion to accept his resignation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I should oppose it, not let him resign, but
No.
I won't do that. All right. Next then, and I don't, Larry, is there any way we can do a letter or anything, a thank you letter for his service? I don't know if we normally do that or not, when somebody's
Yes.
spent that much time on the P&Z. Okay, if you guys would mind, thank you. All right, next then is approval of the appointment of Mark Vanderheyden to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term to expire November 7th. And I know Mark is here because I see him sitting back there. Wave your arm wildly, Mark, there he is. Thank you for volunteering. We're going to double your paycheck, so you can expect that check in the mail. But really, thank you for your time. And, this is a super important commission. This is the most important commission we have, besides this group up here. But it takes some time. We appreciate you taking the time to obviously study all the issues, know what's going on. You know the city, you know the community, so I'm sure you're going to do a great job, and appreciate you stepping up. So thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Mark as the next
So moved.
planning and zoning.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations. And your first meeting is this Thursday.
Good luck.
So you better get with Mr. Gagliardi and get your packet down. All right, because I think it's a pretty full agenda. Thanks again, Mark. All right, next is item K, K1, consider ordinance number 1397.15.25. Planning and Development Director, who I don't see, but
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I am Cesar Adamos. I'm the civil engineer from Development Center. I'm just presenting the repealing and replacing the city codes. We identified inconsistencies in the city code design criteria related to certain right-of-way width and roadway pavement requirements, as well as conflicts with the Small Transportation Study, our SATS, and fire code. This amendment is intended to ensure that the design criteria in the city code aligns with these documents. Additionally, we amended the wastewater discharge design factors for residential uses to reflect current best practices and information regarding these factors. The RCA attachments provided provided shown all proposed amendments to the city codes. Below are the code sections that have been amended. Do you have any questions, sir, and members of the city council?
This will make everything better, right? You're supposed to say yes. Caesar, you're supposed to say yes. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
We saw these in a
Yeah.
study session, right? Okay.
Right, Larry? We had all this in a study session.
Council, I'll let Mr. Itel correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, these amendments that are being proposed this evening essentially allows our code to align with many of the standards that the mayor and council has recently approved.
Okay.
And Dwayne, is there anything else that, on and above that?
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dwayne.
So to specifically to Councilman Huddleston's question, while we may not have gone specifically into each of these elements when you were adopting some of the new standards, they were ultimately included as part of that dialogue, and this essentially just allows the code to align with those standards that have been recently adopted.
I would like to say that Public Works and the Development Center work closely together on all these.
Good. Thank you, Dwayne. Any other questions or comments from anybody? All right, seeing none, then I'll call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1397.15.25, an ordinance of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending certain sections of Chapter 15.32, Public Improvement Requirements for Land Developers, and Chapter 16.16, Design Standards of the City of Casa Grande Municipal Code, pertaining to the design standards for wastewater discharge, streets, and other related improvements, establishing the severability of the various sections of the ordinance, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 1397.15.25 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, that concludes most of tonight's business. We do have reports left, so I'll start over here to my left. Mr. Lavender?
Yes, sir. Last week, our fellow councilwoman, Donna McBride, ended her tenure as chairman of the board for the Casa Grande Alliance. She served as chairman for 8 years. And as I told her last week, the Alliance wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her leadership. When we lost our previous executive director, Donna kept the organization going. It's a real passion of hers. So Donna, I wanted to thank you as well for your service to that organization, and you've left some big shoes for me to fill. I also want to, give a shout out to our city as well as Supervisor Miller's office for all the hard work in helping Arizona City as well as Toltec and Eloy from the storm damages. And also express some disappointment with some of our local hotels. Am I getting in trouble? for price gouging. I understand price gouging for the Super Bowl, and I don't understand it for victims of natural disasters. Am I okay? Thank you. Also, Chief McCrory, great work with your department. It's unfortunate what's happened, but we also know the best deterrent is a swift criminal justice system and arresting everybody. So great work there. And also tomorrow, I want to wish the best of luck to Matt, Bob, Devin, Brent, and Anthony, and also you, Mayor. I know you're going to be up all night, really worried about your election. I think you're safe because I already voted.
Just needs one.
I think I just got a vote.
Well, moving right along then, just a couple things. I attended, finally, back in session was Coffee with a Cop. It was great to see people out. It was good to see the officers and some of the citizens, talking and enjoying each other. And then also hats off out at the airport. There was art at the airport Saturday. It was really a good crowd out there, and the Masons were out there cooking breakfast and helping raise some money. So all in all, it was kind of a quiet couple weeks. So.
Donna?
Craig? Want to say happy birthday to Donna and Craig. They both had birthdays since our last meeting, so yay, good job. I want to congratulate myself for successfully navigating the Youth Commission Annual Retreat. And thanks to Holly Ricosi, who's going to be one of our advisors, and also our advisor who I wouldn't let retire, Kendra Bray, stayed with me to help me move everything along, but the kids had a great time. We got our year planned out. It's going to be another great year for the Youth Commission. We've got a lot of really good participation and ideas and lots of fun, and we get an extra meeting this year since we started in July because of school, so we got that going for us. And of course, vote tomorrow, or turn in your ballots if you have not yet. Thank you.
Now you have to take them to the
To the,
drop-off.
yes, to the
Okay,
polls.
don't put them in the
Yep.
mail. It's too late for mail.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Mr. Powell?
I'll listen to you, about too quick for the mail. I just want to say that I have really been happy with our business. We've been here since 1951, when my dad started it. And today, we went ahead and sold it. And my wife cried, and I just put the money in my pocket. But as I say, it's been wonderful here as a business person, and it's a wonderful community to be in for that. And we're kind of governor-driven, but we're okay, so, and mayors should be the ones that drive it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Now, let's not talk
Councils.
about the governor. Let's talk about it.
Councils
Yeah.
drive.
Absolutely. So anyway, it is hard to get used to when you drive. You drive by it quite often, and but anyway, it's we've got somebody we think
It's in
is
good
getting
hands?
there, and
It's in good hands?
I've never met the person. They want what we have.
Okay.
And
Good.
so that I liked them for that, but
Good.
it's turned out,
Congratulations.
it turned out well, so.
Good.
As I say, I just appreciate what everybody's done in Casa Grande to be able to do those kind of improvements in your,
Good. Congratulations.
what's that?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Lisa?
And I did want to congratulate you, Dick. You know, it's been just a staple in this community for so long and served so many people. When I moved to this community over 45 years ago, it's hard to admit that, but I mean, I've been here a long time. We went to Powell's, got our little chickens, little chicks. My dad took us there moving from Chicago, and we thought we were big country people by buying little chicks, you know, but, so I remember that as a kid, but no, congratulations, and of course, it's something that we'll always remember.
Very good.
But I also, a couple things. One of our Faith Alliance members, the LDS Church, Scott McEwen, the mayor knows, is they're doing a national September 11th project across the country, and he met with the mayor. He went up to Phoenix to a meeting, met with the mayor, and they were trying to determine what we can do here in our community, and they decided to do a cleanup on Casa Grande Mountain. And so Scott McEwen, when you put him on anything, he is on it. And so just wanted to let everyone know that's what they're targeting. And he has, he's trying to get all the football teams, football players at the schools and some of the volunteer groups. And they're hoping to get, over 100 volunteers to go up and clean the mountain. And I know he's working with the mayor and the city to work on that. So September 11th, that is the project that they're targeting.
And it'll be on September 10th.
September 10th, Saturday.
Saturday.
The 11th is Sunday.
11th is Sunday.
Very good.
So hopefully we'll have more information at the next meeting on that.
Yep.
And we all notice in Larry's report that the animal control shelter is changing their hours. And so I understand, the chief gave an explanation as far as staffing. Of course, I'm concerned with those hours because for working people, but I do understand, staffing issues. So I'm hoping this is something that is short-term, because we all see on social media the pets that are wandering around our community and, get to our animal control does such a great job, and so does the community. But I'm just worried about people that are working, to get there to either pick up a pet or, go to the adoption, whatever it is. But I'm hoping it really is short-term, but I understand, the staffing issues. But of course, on social media, there's been some concerns with people because of the hours. So hopefully we just kind of keep an eye on that and make some changes, even if we have to take one day in the middle of the week to have a Saturday morning or whatever it is. So hopefully that's short-term. And as far as the elections, I wanted to wish all of you luck tomorrow. Of course, you do a fantastic job, and it's so exciting to see other people running. So best of luck to all the candidates. And I did want to highlight, please, 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 whoever's watching, tell your family and friends there are 2 ballots. You have to turn in 2 ballots, or when you go and vote on 2 ballots, because that city council election, is not everyone.
Is a separate ballot.
Yeah, it's a total separate ballot. So please, 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 get the message out to your friends and family to turn in or vote on the 2 separate ballots. So, I guess that's it. Ernie?
All right.
Very good.
Bob?
Mayor, a lot of people have noticed on Facebook that our church, Crossroads on North Pinal Avenue, will be moving into the empty Esporta building on Florence Boulevard relatively soon. It looks like everything is going to be kind of on a fast track. And they wanted me to pass on to you a thank you for your support in that endeavor. So we appreciate that. And on a very personal note, I'm a new grandpa. My daughter Molly had a baby, Penelope Ann, 6 pound, 9 ounces, cute as a button. So I'm a proud, happy grandpa.
Congratulations.
So cute.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah,
Such
that's
a
awesome.
cute name.
Congratulations too to the church, Crossroads Church. That's a big move.
Yes, it is.
That's a big move.
It'll be a big project.
Yeah. All right, McCrory, sorry to crush your button here, but I'm gonna give a report. First of all, I really want to thank Congress because they passed the CHIPS Act. The CHIPS Act is an act, or basically it's a domestic semiconductor production support. So it's designed to help manufacturing, 5G. It's also to allow a 25% tax credit for any industry or any company that builds in the U.S. to help manufacture semiconductors. Because we've been so reliant on the worldwide market, and I think it really showed our vulnerability, especially during the pandemic. When you look at an electric vehicle and it takes almost 2,000 chips per electric vehicle, and we have total reliance on Korea and China and Taiwan. And so this act puts us back in the game. It is a game changer for the United States. It's a game changer for Arizona. It's a game changer for the city of Casa Grande, because we are poised to really take advantage of these support industry in this semiconductor arena. We have 5 today. I will bet that in the next year we have another 7 or 8. So it could be, like I said, just a huge benefit to our city as we move forward. So thank you to Congress for passing that. Now we just need the president to sign it. He says he will, so I don't suspect there'll be any issues going forward. So it's a really good deal. And I am having a meeting with the 9/11 group this week, so we will be kind of getting together, and it is on the 10th. It will be at least at this point in time, it will be CG Mountain. But the way Scott works, it's like, he's got like 300 people already lined up for this thing. So it's crazy in terms of the number of folks we're gonna have working on this. So we may be able to swarm the entire mountain. So I'm looking forward to it. You'll hear more about it as we move forward. Also, to let everybody know that the city was nominated for the 2030 general plan this year. We won't know if we have won it yet. It's 24th, 25th of this month. There's a luncheon up in Phoenix. I think a couple staff, myself, will be there. I think you all have been invited. And so, anyway, I think we have a pretty good chance at winning that award. It's through the Arizona Planning Association. So it's a big deal. Again, it's for our 2030 general plan, which you all had a hand in, which staff had a hand in, and obviously our community had a hand in. So it was a community event, community effort, and then also voted on by our community. So that's pretty exciting. Next week, finally going to have the groundbreaking for the Polaris dealership on Pinal, across from the car dealerships. So if you want to be at that, it's at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'll see you all there.
You'll be waiting for us.
Oh, it's on Tuesday the 9th. And there's a lot of other stuff going on too, but I'll kind of leave it at that. We do have a meet and greet, and that's open to the public, isn't it, Larry? Oh, just mayor and council on Wednesday? Okay, never mind. Forget I said anything. Has to be a public meeting though. Okay, I'll leave it alone. That's it. That's all I've got. Anybody else have any final comments or? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everyone. Good night, and we'll move into executive session.